Yes, yes, queen. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching another one of these. Um, I'm in the process of figuring out my procedure, like how often I want to do these, and like trying to really manage my time effectively so that I can share with you and be consistent at the same time. So it's really important to me. So, yeah, this is episode 2, and I've decided that I'll be airing these every 2 weeks and that I'll be filming them on the weekends because I am working on time management, managing all of my projects so that I can see them through. That's something that's super important to me. If I say that I'm going to do something, I want to make sure I actually do it. And the other day I realized how many things I have going on. And so I made a list of all the things that I'm doing, but I made a long list. And the list was like, it was on a piece of paper and there was a lot of space between each item. And with each item, I said, okay, with UPA, I want to do this. With BAM Web Services, I want to do this. With Fistful of Steel, I want to do this, which is the documentary that I'm working on. And I kind of like laid out a really rudimentary 2-year plan that I would like to eventually turn into a more detailed 2-year plan. And, you may be wondering why I'm sharing all of this with you, but I promise it's going to come full circle. So anyways, yeah, I made this list of all of the things I'm doing and how and when I want to do them. And one of the things that I realized is that the Queen of Sexy will be a lifelong project because that's me. And I will always be documenting my life and my history because why not? I think we all lead very extraordinary lives and we look back on them and it's hard to remember all of the pieces that got us to where we are today. And something that I did as a child, when I was 13, is I wrote in my journals. That's when I started, around 13, maybe younger, but I only have record of from 13. And some of you have actually seen proof of that because sometimes I take pictures of my journal entries and share them in my blogs because I say things like, when I was 15, I wrote this down, and I want to prove to you that that is true. I actually did that. So I'm able to look back on my teenage years and be like, oh my God, that thing happened, and I wonder how that shaped me. And so I want to continue doing that throughout my life. And so I'm like, okay, the Queen of Sexy will be an ongoing project forever, but when I document my life and do these extra things, I could do it on the weekend. And Monday through Friday, I work on 3 major projects. One is United Pole Artists, the other is BAM Web Services, and the other is the Top Secret project, which I plan on being a lifelong project. And so I'll tell you about that later when the time comes. I can't talk about it yet. And then on the weekends, I work on Babe Town Fest, Fistful of Steel, the documentary, my blogs and podcasts. What else? I'd have to reference my list to tell you. But yeah, so that's pretty much my plan and how I plan on continuing to do all of these things. Oh yeah, Soldiers of Pole is also another thing that's sort of meant for the weekend. Not to say that I won't do things for those projects during the week, but my main focus during the week are my 3 major projects. And I do all of this time management so that I can be accountable and so that I can maintain integrity with what I'm doing and keep moving forward and not feel overwhelmed, which I started to realize is a story that I've been telling myself. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed, when in reality, I'm the only one putting pressure on me. And so I say all of that to say, I want to revisit something that I said on the last podcast, which was writing a book is so hard. But gosh darn it, writing a book is just so freaking hard. And also, are y'all reading books? I realized in that moment that I realized later that I had misspoke on that last podcast. Writing a book is only hard if I think it is hard. That's not why I'm not writing a book. I'm not writing a book because I don't have the full desire yet to write a book. I don't want to make the time to write a book. If I wanted to write a book, I would write a fucking book. I would make the time. I've just proven to you that I can manage several projects at once, and I have the time and space to do whatever it is I want. I don't want to write a book right now. Maybe someday I will write a book, but right now I just don't want to. That's something that other people want me to do. And as far as it being hard, do you know how many hard things I've done in my life? I have examples. I actually made a list of really hard things that I've done in my life to prove to you that this isn't about hard or easy. This is about, do I really want to do this or not? And it's also about, that's what other people want me to do. And if you know me really well, you know, like, I don't do what people want me to do. I do what I want to do. And, you know, I've talked to my mother about this, and you're going to hear me reference my mother a lot when I talk in podcasts because she's a very influential person in my life. We have a very strong bond, and we talk often. And a lot of my self-development and personal growth is largely in part due thanks to her. So I'm always going to be talking about my mom. Hi, Mom. So anyway, she's shared with me that, you know, she learned a long time ago that if she didn't get on board with me and my life and how I wanted to live it, that it was either accept me and my decisions and the way I live my life, or cut me out. And she obviously didn't want to cut me out. My mother wanted me to do a lot of things back in the day that I wouldn't do, like go to college. She did not want me to be a stripper. She did not want me to do network marketing, which I do a little bit of now, but I got into it really heavily when I was 20 years old, and she hated it. But what network marketing did for me was open my eyes up to a world that I kind of had an inkling existed, but I didn't know fully. And that world was, you have the choice to live your life how you want to live, and you do not need to follow a cookie cutter system, which is something that I kind of felt existed, but I had never been exposed to that through my family nor my friends at the time. Now all of my friends, I have surrounded myself with those people. But when I was younger, I just didn't even fully understand it existed. And so when I got introduced to network marketing, they were like, live your dreams, do what you want. You don't have to have a 9-to-5. You can work for yourself. You can be an entrepreneur. And that's when my life completely changed. So if I had listened to my mother, who I love, and didn't do network marketing, I wouldn't have been so exposed to that way of thinking. And it literally was the catalyst that is driving me to this day, was learning that information and being surrounded by like-minded people. Network marketing is hard. It's hard work. And if you choose to go down that path, know that it's hard. And I want to talk to you about another, a bunch of other difficult paths that I went down and what I learned from each of those experiences and how it kind of shaped a lot of what you see from me today. One of the first things when I was younger that took place was when I was in 8th grade. I was best friends with three other gals. Their names were Karen Kinkiner, Denise Hoban, and Maureen Leitenberger. And we were all in high school together. And we all wanted to be cheerleaders. And all four of us tried out for the varsity team to be able to cheer on the varsity team as 9th graders. So it was towards the end of the 8th grade year. And then we tried out to train over the summer to be in varsity for the fall when school started the following, in the next few months after. And we all tried out, and all three of them made it, and I did not. And like I said, we were all tight. We were like a unit, and they made it, and I did not. And that was really, really difficult for me. And what I could have done was given up, felt sorry for myself, and never try again. But instead what I did was I went home and I practiced after school every single day. And I need you to understand, I didn't give a shit about school, okay? I didn't care about school. I didn't care about grades. I cared about achieving what I wanted to achieve and what I thought was important. And what I thought was important was being on the varsity cheerleading team. And so my plan was to get really good at cheerleading, so I had to become more flexible. I had to get better at dancing, get better at cheers, get better at, like, you know, my arm formations, because how you hold your arms is really important. You can't hold your arms back and wide. You have to hold them forward and front, and they have to be engaged, and your shoulders have to be down here. It's not like this up here, you know. It's like very specific, you know. And so I spent like day after day after day after school, and I even got myself to the point where I was doing 50 push-ups in a row. I got really, really strong. And then I auditioned for cheerleading again for the basketball season, and I made it. And I didn't just make the varsity cheerleading team. I like blew everybody away. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, is this the same girl that auditioned for varsity over the summer?" You know? And I was not the same girl. And I used that failure to become better at what I truly, truly wanted to do. And I used to have vision boards before we even knew what vision boards were. And I had pictures of cheerleaders from University of Louisville on my bulletin board because I wanted to be like them, and I wanted to visualize what I was trying to achieve every single day. And that was honestly the only reason why I ever considered going to college, was so that I could cheer on like a really high-end team. Anyway, and what ended up happening is I ended up cheering longer than any of them, and going further than any of them, and being better at cheerleading than any of them. And instead, like I said, I could have been like, oh, I suck, and like I guess like that dream is dead. And I didn't. I looked at oh, you're gonna kick me down and knock me down. And not, when I say you, I don't mean anyone in particular. I just mean like the universe, right? I was like, well, I'm gonna get back up, and I'm gonna fight harder, and I'm gonna do better, and I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win this. And I did. And that was a really, really beautiful life lesson for me. Another really hard thing that I did was for 2006, I won Entertainer of the Year for Spearmint Rhino. And I had done the semifinals the 2 years before the year I won. So in 2003 was the first contest for Entertainer of the Year. So the way it works is we would compete in 2003 and you would win, and you would reign for 2004. Compete in 2004, you would win and reign in 2005. So I competed in 2005, I won, I reigned for 2006. So in 2003, I competed. I didn't even place in semifinals. Didn't even place. I remember exactly why I didn't place, by the way. My show was like accidentally sabotaged. And that's the thing. I cannot blame that loss on anybody else but myself. And when I say accidentally sabotaged, the things that happened on stage that night wasn't due to a failure of mine in that moment, but it was the leading up to where there was a series of failures that were made that caused the main failure on stage. And I had learned that lesson. It took me a while to learn that lesson because I was angry at the person at the time because it was somebody that was working with me, and it was a mistake on his part that caused sort of like this whole shenanigans, whatever. So long story short, I didn't place, okay? And it was nobody's fault but mine. Then in 2004, same thing. I competed, didn't place. And, it's really difficult for me because I'm a very competitive person. I think really highly of myself and that I should be winning everything. And in 2005, I won the entire thing. But I approached it in 2005 with a completely different mentality. Okay, in 2003 and 2004, I was like, I should win this thing because I'm amazing, and that's why I'm gonna win this thing. In 2005, I went, I'm up against some really tough competition. I have my work cut out for me. I changed my diet. I got cleaner. I stopped drinking and doing as many drugs as I normally did. I utilized my coach's time. I created a game plan. I practiced every time I was on stage at work as if I was on stage for the contest that night. I won semifinals, and I set myself up so that I did semifinals on the first week so that every week after that I could show up at the contest, at each contest, and see what my competition was going to be like. Now, I specifically requested to compete in the first week, and it's like 5 weeks of semifinals, and then it rolls over to a 6th week with all of the finalists. Anyways, I said, I want to go on the first week. I showed up every week. I watched all of my competition. I knew what I was up against, and I knew what I had to do to win. And the most important thing that I did to win that contest was there was no plan B. It was win this competition or there's nothing else left. You have no options if you don't win. This is do or die. This is about your life. This is life or death. And the reason why I took it that seriously was because I was very unhappy in the strip club industry in Los Angeles at the time, and I wanted to be out of the strip club industry in Los Angeles, and I saw winning as a doorway to get out of the industry. And I had to create in my mind the mentality, there is no other option. And I specifically remember telling someone who was a friend at the time, I don't know what I'm going to do if I don't win. I really, really don't know what I'm going to do if I don't win. There's no other option. I have to win. And that's what I said to her. I said those words to her, and I said those words in my head over and over and over again. And I imagined myself winning. I envisioned myself winning. I had only winning conversations in my head. Self-doubt, anytime it crept in, it had to be pushed out, And that sometimes is a moment-to-moment situation. Sometimes there's so much negative talk that literally every second you live in, you have to replace it with positive. It's just like when you're working out, sometimes in the mornings when I wake up at 6 a.m. and I get on the static bike, and it's so hard because it's been really cloudy out here a lot lately. So it's much darker when I wake up, and my foot hurts, right? Because I'm pushing on the pedals, and it's 6 a.m. also. I don't know if you just caught that when I said that earlier. It's fucking 6 a.m. in the morning, okay? My cats are totally confused. They don't know why I'm even awake. And so I'm like, on the bike, and I ride it at the highest, hardest level because I want my legs to get back in shape, and I'm really pushing myself to get my foot used to having pressure on it. And there are some mornings where it's every single second in my head, it's push, 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 push. Because if I don't do that, it'll creep in, oh, it's okay if you slow down a little bit. No, it is not okay in that moment. I only am riding the bike for a total of 28 minutes. And for a total of 25 minutes, that's it. I'm riding it at the hardest maximum level I can ride. Just 25 minutes of my life. And I have to maximize that time. And anytime a moment of weakness creeps in, I have to go, nope, push, push, push. Do you want to talk about something hard? That's fucking hard. So that's similarly, I was doing that when I was prepping for this contest and prepping to win. Any notion of doubt, I had to just push it out, and I had to refocus and reiterate positive talk. You will win. There is nothing else. I have distinct memories of being in this amazing apartment that I used to live in that I still fantasize about. And I remember having moments in the kitchen where I was prepping my tuna meals because I'm telling you, my diet got so clean. And I would be like, you're going to win. That's all there is. There's nothing else. There's only winning. There's only this contest. There's only this title. There's nothing else. You will win. And it was nonstop, that conversation, until finally I won. And winning that contest, I had told people for about a decade after I won that contest that was the best night of my life, because that was the first time that I really, really, like, yes, I did the cheerleading thing, right? Yes, that was a success, and I was very triumphant. But winning this contest, that was so much harder. And because I was up against like way better talent, you're older, the more of an adult you become, the more serious it gets, right? And that was the first time where I'm like, wow, I really seriously put my mind to something and I fucking did it and I succeeded. And it was such a great feeling. Yeah. Now that I'm telling these stories out loud, like in sequential order, and this is the first time that I'm doing this in sequential order, I'm realizing how much those experiences just continue to sort of like trickle over into the next one and into the next one, into the next one. So the next hard thing that I did was, okay, I wasn't planning on telling you this, but it's coming to me, was when I quit stripping, because that was the goal, right? To win Entertainer of the Year and quit. I quit working in the nude strip clubs and I went to Jumbo's Clown Room. I went to Jumbo's Clown Room because I knew that the dancers were pole dancing there and that they weren't doing lap dances and that they were making money on stage. And because I was brought there actually by my coach for the Entertainer of the Year contest, and he brought me to Jumbo's Clown Room to show me what real entertainers look like. Okay, they're like in it with their crowd. They're focused. They're very connected to their audience, and I learned a lot from watching them. I didn't want to admit it at the time because Jumbo's Clown Room used to be called the place where strippers go to die. And I didn't want to admit that I had learned something from a dive bar like that, because you have to understand I was very highly integrated into the classy strip club scene, right? I hate that word classy, but at the time that was my thinking. And, I worked in a place that had like leopard and cheetah rugs and brass fixtures and velvet couches and shiny floors, and so I was just kind of a dickhead. But I did learn a lot. I did learn a lot from them. And ultimately, I ended up going back there because they were so awesome and because that place really made an impression on me. But here's where the challenge came in. Yes, it was called Where Strippers Go to Die. Jumbo's Clown Room, Where Strippers Go to Die. It's not called that anymore, but 11, 12 years ago, oh yeah, that's what it was called. And I was fucking terrified. All of these women had like tattoos all over their bodies. I didn't have a lot of tattoos. And for some reason that was intimidating. They all had black hair. I was super blonde at the time. They all wore a lot of black. They were all a little crazy. And they were edgy, and they were like, they yelled at the audience, so they were scary. And and I read the reviews online, and there was like weird shit going on there back in the day. So on my way there, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what I was getting into. I was so scared. And I remember driving there and thinking, why are you doing this? Why are you going here? This is the same situation that you're trying to get out of. You're just going to a shittier version of the same situation you're trying to get out of. And then the other voice came in my head. It was like, don't you listen to that voice. That voice doesn't know what it's talking about. Just keep going. Just keep driving. Just keep driving straight. Just keep going. Just keep going. And I went in, and because I had already auditioned, so I already kind of had a feel for the place, but I still didn't really know what it was all about until my first night of working there. And right away, my whole mind was changed. Well, not right away. I would say within the first 2 hours. I was like, okay, this is totally different. And then I ended up staying and running with it, and it became one of the most beautiful and amazing and life-changing experiences of my life. And I wouldn't have gone if I had let the voice in my head tell me all of the bullshit and make up all of the stories that I was just making up on my own, stories that weren't even real. And that was really hard to fight that voice and to trudge on with this fucking devil voice in my head just talking all this shit, and we do that all the time. I mean, how often do you hear that, it's not good, this is scary, you should quit, you shouldn't do that? How often do you do that? Because for me, that happens a lot. It still happens. It's something I have to I have to control on a regular basis. I have to manage it. It's not something that ever really goes away. It's just about how you deal with it and how you literally manage the voice in your head. And for me lately, for a lot of reasons that I'll get into another time, it's gotten so much easier. And it's reduced, it's taken away negative energy, and it's given me so much more time to manage all of these things that I want to do, because I spend less time talking myself out of things. I spend less time being fearful and having that fear, judgy, critical, cynical voice in my head. And now I have a lot more brain real estate for more positive energy and for more possibilities and more opportunities. So yeah, managing that voice is such a challenge, right? So hard. So, So the next hard thing that I chose to go into was live streaming. So live streaming now is hella easy, right? You just fucking push a button on your Instagram. But when live streaming first came out, that shit was so fucking hard. You needed all different kinds of wires. You needed a FireWire. You need USB, not USB, Thunderbolts, or you need the HDMI wires, and you need different size HDMI wires, and then you need all of the devices, and you need the software, and you need more than one software. Actually, you need the device software, and you need the live stream software, and then you have to connect all of that information to your website, and then you have to pay for music licensing. Yes, I paid ASCAP and BMI every year about $350 each to be able to legally stream music with visual on my website. Also, ASCAP and BMI at the time were what are you trying to do? Because nobody was really trying to do that at the time. And I had to talk to a few people to really get into their heads what I was doing to make sure I was authorized to do. It was so much work. And I would even work with other live streamers, and I would come against issues, and they wouldn't even know how to solve all of my issues. And so there was so much troubleshooting going back and forth. And a lot of times you would have to just eliminate variables one by one. It was like being a scientist. It was so difficult. And so when I finally figured out how to live stream, and then, you find out the technology of how to do it, and then you have to take all of the technology and all of the wires and all of the information and all of the devices and take it into a different setting. So now I'm at a theater live streaming California Pole Dance Championship. And now I have to learn their whole internet system. Not only are you logging into it, but how strong is it? Can it handle all of this information? The amount of work and effort that went into it was absolutely insane. I was fucking nuts. And furthermore, upon doing all the work, everyone's telling me, well, why would anybody come to our event if we're live streaming it? Which is so ridiculous. And so I had to talk to them and tell them because people want to feel the energy in person. People want to be there. And so I had to have these enrollment conversations with these event producers to convince them to let me live stream at their event. Okay, so all of that, right? That's all difficult. You figured out how hard that is, right? Then something goes wrong. It's not perfect because technology, and because I'm learning, and because no one's paying me thousands of dollars to do this. I'm doing it, a lot of it on my own. I had teammates. I had people helping me, but I was driving that train. And things would go wrong. Not all the time, but a lot of the time things would go wrong. And most of the time, because I finally convinced my partners that we need to live stream for free for many, many reasons. And so when they were paid live streams and something would go wrong, oh my God, you don't even want to know some of the emails I got. But even when they were free and something would go wrong, my phone would blow up, my email inbox would blow up, our Facebook on United Pole Artists would blow up, and the comment box, because I added a comment box so the community could talk back and forth to each other. And the comment box would just be a list of shitty comments about how the live stream sucks, and then suggestions of how I can make the live stream better while I'm in the middle of the live stream failing. I'm failing, and everyone around the world is telling me how I can be better and how my live stream can be better and that my live stream basically sucks. And so, literally, sometimes I would just walk away and be like, oh, I have to go pee. I would go to the bathroom and cry and clean my face up and go back out and try again. And I would feel like this anxiety, like deep in the pit of my gut. My whole body was tingling because I was fucking up and the whole world was watching me fuck up. They were watching me fail, and they knew I was failing, and they were telling me that I was failing. And if that doesn't callous your brain, I don't know what the fuck else does. I mean, that was some gnarly shit. And I kept doing it. I kept trying. I kept trying to add more cameras to make better live streams. I kept practicing and getting better and better. And eventually there were less mistakes. But it never got easy. I always walked into every event with fear in the pit of my stomach. And that's where I wish I could go back and change and have that be different. I wish I could go back and have that be different and tell that version of myself, this fear isn't serving you. This anxiety isn't serving you or the purpose that you're here for. And I let that fear and anxiety take over. And I wish I could go back and make that different. At the same time, I'm grateful for that because now I know what that feels like, and now I know how to avoid feeling like that and how to mitigate that anxiety and fear, which I feel like I'm doing a really, really, really excellent job of right now. And so, that was a really, really difficult time, and it got easier over time, with experience, and I'm so grateful for it. So I want to leave you with this. I want you to know that, if you can kind of see a trend with all of these stories, and that is the inner voice. The inner voice is always going to be there. It all depends on how you acknowledge it. If you allow your negative inner voice to have power, you're going to find yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. If you acknowledge the inner voice for what it is and choose to have power over it, and choose to change the way the inner voice and you communicate with each other, that's where you can manifest true power. And this isn't something that you can just tell yourself one day, oh yeah, she's right, my inner voice, check. No, this is something that has become a lifestyle for me, and I've witnessed become a lifestyle for a lot of other people. And mostly in successful people, I've seen this, where they're constantly managing and acknowledging the inner voice for what it is and choosing how to deal with that inner voice. It literally becomes a lifestyle. It's something that has to be worked on every single day, and on certain days, all day long. There are some days I wake up and my inner voice wants to start screaming at me. And I have to just take a beat and remember that I have the power to control my inner voice, and I have the power to decide whether or not my inner voice is telling the truth or not. Because the majority of the time, the inner voice is making up stories that aren't even real. And then before you know it, you find yourself falling into it and believing it and getting trapped in the energy of the inner voice. And that's why things seem hard. When you're listening to the inner voice tell you, this is hard. If you believe that it is hard, it will be hard. If you believe that you are sad, you will be sad. If you believe you are lonely, you will be lonely. The inner voice can be controlled. It can be modified to suit the realities that you really want to see yourself in. Whatever you want your reality to be, it has to start with the dialogue in your head. How are you going to choose to acknowledge the inner voice? That's the real key right there. And listen, someone just said to me today, "Oh, AM, you seem like you've got it all together." There's not a single person on this planet that has it all figured out, that has it all together. I look like I have it all together because I spend time trying to make it look like I have it all together. I don't even know what all together means. But what I can tell you is I do spend a lot of work on my mental health. And I think that I spent a lot of time on my mental health the whole year leading up to my accident, all of 2018. And I really truly believe that all of the work that I did through my hypnotherapy sessions, which I'm so grateful for, and all of the books that I read, and all of I did a lot of meditating in 2018. Oh my God, I meditated so much. And I did exercises where I would write notes to myself, where I would write thank you notes to myself about situations that were really, really shitty. And I would write, thank you for this lesson for X, Y, and Z. And I'd fold it up and I'd put it in a box. My financial supportive health coverage got canceled due to non-payment. I never opened the letters they sent me because I assumed it was trash. My auto payments had not gone through. I learned to open all mail from companies I'm involved in. Thank you. So my point is I did all of this work in 2018. I wrote notes to myself. I meditated. I was doing hypnotherapy because in 2017, I was just in a spiral. I was in a funk. It was like a mess. It was like stress and one dramatic thing after the other, taking up so much goddamn space in my head. I couldn't get ahead. I couldn't find the light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see it. I wanted success so badly, but I was spending my time with all these people that were lying to me and cheating and stealing from me and hurting me and breaking up with me and all these types of things. 2018 was a beautiful year. I spent all of my time focusing on myself and how to get through very difficult times because I realized the mental bullshit that was going on in my head was holding me back. Cut to the end of 2018, smash into me, take half my foot. My whole entire life changed. Yes, that is hard. Not dancing the way I used to be able to dance. Not being able to wear heels, just going out. I have to go to an event tonight and I have to wear my flat boots. I can't wear my cute heels like everybody else will be. Dealing with looking down at my foot and it being totally different. Dealing with my whole financial situation is completely changed. Dealing with when I go to have sex for the first time and I'm naked in front of somebody, they're going to be looking at a body that I'm not even familiar with yet. So, I say all of that to say the inner voice, the inner dialogue, and the mental gymnastics that we have to do is all practice. It's a daily practice and it's a lifestyle. And nothing seems so hard anymore. The more positive talks you have with yourself and the more space, the more real estate, positive, open real estate you have in your head, the more opportunities there are and the more possibilities there are. And so the reason I'm sharing with you all of these hard stories is because what I'm finally noticing from telling you all of this is every hard story led to me being like, oh, okay, well, I could do that. So let me try something a little harder. Let me try something a little harder still. And what I'm dealing with right now, not only just my foot, but like my life transition and like trying to level up in the world. Like I'm really interested in being a public speaker. I really want to like change the way things are done, especially for strippers and sex workers. And I really want to tackle difficult projects. And I'm not so scared because I've witnessed myself do hard project after hard project after hard project. And on top of that, I've done the mental work to keep my mind free and clear to continue to move forward without fear. And when the fear comes in, I'm like, hello, how are you? I will ask you to leave now. Like, get the fuck out of my brain space. I don't need you here. I don't want you here. You're not serving me. And so to circle that all back and connect that with the comment that I made on my last podcast, I am not writing a book because it's hard. I'm not writing a book because I don't want to yet. And when I want to, I promise you, you will know. So I'd like for you to, when I'm done talking and when this shuts off, for you to think of hard things that you really wanted to do, but you didn't do it because you told yourself it was hard. And I want you to imagine that it's not hard, that it's the easiest thing you've ever done in your life. And I want you to imagine what it would feel like while you're in the process of doing that thing. And then I want you to imagine what it would feel like when you've accomplished that thing that you really, really want, but that you're putting off, or that you're not doing, or that you haven't done because you told yourself it's hard. And just really sit in that. And then maybe start to work on clearing your mind of the fear. And if you don't know how to do that, you can reach out to me and I will give you suggestions. But I can give you some here and now. I would say that The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success is a really great book. I recommend this all the time. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is a great book. I would say a lot of reading is a really great way to mitigate the fear that you deal with internally. And I also highly recommend hypnotherapy. It is not like, oh, you're asleep and now you're a chicken. It's not like that. You're not like going under and like uncovering traumatic events. It's almost like guided meditation. And if you go in with an intent and a purpose, the results you get out of it can be incredible. And another thing that I did recently was some landmark seminars and forums. And if you want to know more about that and get my advice on that and my review on that, let me know, because that was extremely beneficial for me. And the last thing I'll tell you is acknowledge what is happening as it happens. So the next time you feel it happen, acknowledge that, and then start to ask yourself questions. Well, why am I saying that? Why am I thinking that? Where did I get that idea from? And just recognize it. Don't let it take over. Start to pause and just recognize it, because that's the first step to overcoming an issue, is to recognize that there is an issue here. And the issue might be that your voice is like, stop that. Stop. You're amazing. I'm amazing. We're all amazing. And we're all just a group of beings on a rock that's hurtling through space. And at the end of the day, none of it really matters anyway. So you might as well spend your time doing whatever the fuck you want and whatever the fuck makes you happy. Until next time, I'm yours, the Queen of Sexy.